Athletes, take your mark. Get set. It's time for the Addict to Athlete podcast. Hey, everybody out there, Coach Blue Robinson here. Hey, I want to thank you all so much for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. Greatly appreciate you doing so. Athletes, as always, continue to keep an eye on the website, addicttoathlete.org. We have lots of stuff coming up this summer. The running season, the recreational season is now beginning. The cold weather is starting to push its way out, and it's time to get out there and have some fun again. Be able to reunite yourself with the team and continue to carry that message of sobriety through your actions. Athletes, as always, I'm so thankful for the feedback that we've been getting. Please jump on, give us a rating and a review. It does help get this podcast out a little bit further. Athletes, I don't want to spend too much time introducing this podcast. You guys all know what this is. You tune in every week, and I really appreciate that. But today we have a really special guest, one that I've been following on social media for years. And finally, athletic director Marissa, my wife, she's like, we should see if he wants to be on the podcast. I'm like, man, that guy's busy. He didn't have time for us. But I'm so thankful that she reached out. Ed, they call you the accidental advocate for recovery and the activist that you've been through some pretty heavy experiences. Ed, welcome to the podcast. Would you mind just giving us an introduction on how you became the accidental activist for a pretty intense, I would say, journey that's taken you the last, like you said, 23 years now?
Yeah, Blue. I'll start at the beginning. So
Please.
it was President's Day, 2001. I was at work. I got a call from my 15-year-old daughter. Dad, Eddie's blue and he's not breathing. I was at work. I was like, call 911. I worked in downtown Philadelphia. Ran out, hopped in the cab. I lived 3 miles away from downtown, praying all the way in the cab. And get to cab, drop me off at the corner. I start running up the street. I see an ambulance in front of my house. And I'm thinking, thank you, God. But as I got closer, I noticed there was 2 guys sitting in the ambulance. And they just said, sorry, sir. And I said,
Really?
Don't tell me he's dead. They said, sorry, sir. I ran in the house and my brother was in there. He said, don't go upstairs. And, that's how this all started.
Wow, brother.
And so within 5 minutes, some of Eddie's friends were outside.
Really?
And I went outside and I knew they had a party the night before because it was President's Day and everybody was off from school. And I said, tell me what he did. And they said, an oxy. I said, oxy? What the hell's an oxy?
What's that? Yeah.
They said, OxyContin. It's like a strong Percocet. I said, no.
No way. Yeah.
My son's dead in his bed. So that's the very first time I heard the word OxyContin. So like I said, this was 2001. I went back in the house. I put my head down. I was crying. A police sergeant came in the door and he said, Oxy, kids are dying left and right from this stuff. I popped right up. I was like, what? How did I never even hear about it?
Nothing.
I mean, I read the newspaper every day. I watched the news every single night. My son's dead from this pill, which didn't happen too often in 2001.
No, it didn't.
Mean, it was unheard of. And my son was in high school.
Oh, man.
And we had just signed him up for a chef's school, which he was going to go to after he graduated. And, it was total shock. And so after a little while, we got on the internet. Google wasn't even around then. So it was Yahoo. And we type in OxyContin, and I see all these stories of deaths, but nothing from the Philadelphia area. Most of it was from Appalachia or Maine, Kentucky. And I'm reading these stories in my jaw, and the first thing I thought, I got to warn the kids.
Yeah.
So that very
Yeah.
night, we had a little home office. I started to fax high schools in
Really?
Philadelphia. And we went into the yellow pages. That's how things were done back then. Went into
That's just
yellow
right after smoke
pages.
signals, man. Yeah, you can do
Yeah,
smoke signals or yellow pages. Wow.
started with Eddie's high school and faxed them. And you started from there. The next day, I was interviewed by the paper. We actually called a press conference at the local police district,
Hmm.
and every news channel in Philadelphia was there, and
Ed,
NPR
Ed,
radio.
I can only imagine, listeners. You have to remember, 2001. Like Ed said, there you didn't hear of this. It was unheard of. I mean, Ed, I didn't even start hearing about heavy problems with overdosing until what 2011. And so you're talking 10 years before even it caught radar out here. And like you did something though that no one did. As a parent who has a child that passed away, you stood up instead of like hid. You
Well,
must have
right.
felt something that's like, I'm not being quiet about this. Something must have struck you inside of like, no, this is not on my watch.
Nah, you're right. It never occurred to me to keep this quiet. My son died of a drug overdose, but the circumstances, like I said, Eddie was in high school.
Hmm.
I found out some things in hindsight, but at the moment, it was like he went to a party, took this pill, went to sleep, and never woke up. And I got
Yeah.
to warn everybody. And I
Hmm.
know in Philadelphia, everybody did get warned, or a lot of people got warned initially.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, so that was a Monday. That next Sunday morning, I was on a local talk show,
Hmm.
one of the Sunday morning talk shows, and so I'm telling them about OxyContin. I get home, and the producer called and he said, "We had 3 people call who want to make you a website
Hmm.
because I was going on message boards and telling people." And
Yeah.
another thing, so if you people remember way back, the big thing was chain emails. You would get
Yep.
an email and they'd be jokes. So
Hmm.
I typed up an email and I said, "You like sending jokes? Please send this to save lives." So that's what I was
Right.
doing. But I had a volunteer uh, build me a website. We had a website up within a week or two, simple website. My sister was a nurse, so we got the medical aspect. And, I'm
Jeez.
going to give you the big overview here
I
because
need it. I want it. Yeah.
22 years. So the website was only up a couple weeks, and I'm getting emails from some people who lost their loved ones. I was
Yeah.
also getting emails from chronic pain patients, and to my shock, some of them were out and out nasty, saying you're
Oh yeah.
well. A lot of them were saying, the name of my website was oxykills.com.
Beautiful.
Short and to the point.
Yep.
But I was warning kids about the abuse, don't abuse OxyContin.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know too much about the drug. Well, anyway, so some of the emails were from chronic pain patients saying that I was going to stop them from getting the drug that they needed. And I
Mm.
would write them all back. But some of them actually were nasty, saying
Yeah.
my son deserved to die because he took it not as prescribed and he got what he deserved. And, you
Oh my
know,
gosh.
some of them I might have answered to start, but after that, it was just delete.
Yep. Yep.
Well, the website was up a couple weeks and I look at my email and who's emailing me? Purdue Pharma, the
You're
company
kidding
that
me.
makes OxyContin. Yep.
You're kidding me.
So the Purdue rep I talked to, a lady, she actually said, "We just want you to know we're so sorry your son died, blah 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 blah, and we just want you to know that our drug is a miracle drug for patients who need it, and it's FDA approved." And I had no reason to doubt them. So a lot of people probably know some things about OxyContin, you got to remember, I learned it as I went along.
Oh yeah, day by
So,
day, you did.
so it, initially, I had no reason to believe, I just wanted to warn kids, don't mess with this pill. It's
Yeah.
powerful. It will kill you. And, that this was in February 2001. Well, in August of 2001 was the very first congressional hearing on OxyContin deaths.
Are you
In
kidding me? Like timing? What?
timing wise,
What?
and so to make a long story short, what I found out from the cops, there was a pill mill doctor in the in Bensalem, PA, which is just north of Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been watching this pill mill, and the cop told me, or the detective, we're going to make an arrest soon. So okay, so here, come to find out that literally carloads of people from Philadelphia would go up to this doctor, pay him cash. It was cash only. He would write
Yeah.
them Oxy and Xanax prescriptions.
Oh my
They'd come
gosh.
back, and a lot of them were selling it.
Yeah.
And so they arrested this doctor a couple months later, I think in April. But I'm reading the paper, and I was like floored that they actually said they were monitoring her, that they were looking at this doctor for 8 months. And
8 months.
first thing I thought was, oh my God, how many hundreds of thousands of pills
Yep.
were put on the street in 8 months? Not only that, Eddie got one of them last pills.
Yeah.
And, but here, come to find out that 8 months is actually short to bust a pill mill.
Give me
Um,
a break, man.
yeah, exactly. How much evidence do you need? They had to build
Yeah.
the case. So anyway, so it just so happened
Ah.
that this doctor was from Bensalem, PA. So so Congressman Jim Greenwood, who was the
Mm-hmm.
chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, and I
Yeah.
didn't know hardly anything about politics, but I've learned.
Crash course.
So so he was the chairman. So he held it in his district. So I go
Mm.
to this hearing, not expecting, not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And Purdue's president, Michael Friedman, was there. Their chief lawyer, Howard Udell, was there. And their chief medical officer, Paul Goldenheim, was there.
And you're
So
laying eyes on these people like while they're
I'm
there?
right, but I didn't
You did.
really know what this
Yeah.
company was about. I'm
Yeah.
still assuming I'm just trying to warn kids not to abuse OxyContin.
Yeah.
But so now we're in 7 months into it, and I am getting a lot of emails from patients who got addicted. And I'm getting a lot of emails from relatives who lost a son, a daughter, a wife, a husband,
My
and they
gosh.
said they were in a car accident, their back hurt, doctor put them on this. Next thing you know, they're dead.
Jeez.
So I went to that hearing. So Congressman Jim Greenwood told them about the pill mill doctor, Richard Paolino.
Yep.
And they said, and I know your company has IMS data, which I never heard of IMS, but it's a database. Purdue knew exactly how many pills this doctor was writing for, which was off the chart.
Really.
And Greenwood said, why did your company not report him to the authorities? He could have been taken off the street a lot sooner.
Yeah.
And so Freeman started mumbling. Next thing you know, the lawyer jumps in,
Mm-hmm.
and he answers, but it really wasn't an answer. It was
No.
legalese. So
Mm-hmm.
they didn't really have no good excuse. So I left that meeting a little miffed,
Yeah.
and little spider senses were tingling, right?
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, one of the things I started to do in my advocacy is I started to go around with the Philadelphia Police Department, and they had
Mm-hmm.
a program called Heads Up, and they would go to
Mm.
schools and basically give an anti-drug talk. Well, they would let me talk about pills. They only gave me 5 minutes. And I knew pills were the latest thing. Pills is what killed my son, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
5 minutes wasn't enough. So I wanted to
No.
start my own program.
Good.
So I'm semi-friendly with Purdue, and they had said if you're ever interested in doing a program about prescription drug abuse, we'll work with you. So anyway, through some emails, I wound up going up to Purdue Pharma in Stamford, Connecticut,
Yeah.
and I met
Wow.
with the I forget his exact title, medical J.W. No, J. David Haddocks. J.
Okay.
David Haddocks. So I met with him, and they're telling me you all about how great their drug is. And so I tell them, I said, the only thing that's bothering me is I'm getting all these emails.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, less than 1% of patients get addicted, which I had heard before. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm hearing from all the 1%, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I
Then the whole
said,
world's on it then.
so
Yeah.
he's telling me how all these stories in the newspapers are hurting, patients from getting the drug they need. I said,
So,
oh,
but Ed, are they remembering in the back of their heads that you were there as a father who lost a
yeah,
son?
oh
Like,
yeah, they're very
bloody hell.
apologetic, but I said to them, I said, he said, I'm losing train of thought here a little, but anyway, he said, okay, less than 1% get addicted, and then
Yeah.
I said, oh, so sales are down. He looked me in the eye. He said, yes, a lot.
Oh man.
So anyway, make a long story short,
Mm-hmm.
Purdue. I started a foundation called Prescription Drug Abuse Awareness and Prevention,
Mm-hmm.
and laptops were expensive in 2001,
Yeah.
and so Purdue gave me a small donation to start my fund. And
Mm-hmm.
here I was getting all these emails from these chronic pain patients every
Yeah.
day saying how oxy kills is hurting, you know, legitimate oxy patients. So one thing I did, I said, okay, I'm changing my site from oxy kills to oxy abuse kills because that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm warning about. So I left there and I felt a little uneasy.
Yeah.
Three
You
months
have to.
later, 3 months later, headline in the paper: OxyContin sales that year up 43%.
Give me a break.
I
Give.
knew as soon as I read that, I knew right there that they were full of crap.
Yep.
And the man lied to my face. I got on my computer and I shot off a few nasty emails to Purdue.
Yeah.
And up until that point, my website was warning about the dangers of OxyContin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the website from that day on took two meanings: warn
Yeah.
about the dangers of OxyContin and warn about the lies that this company, Purdue Pharma, is telling.
Oh man.
And
Man. Bite the hand that was trying to force feed you. I can only imagine, Ed.
yeah, so this was 2002. So
Yeah.
in 2000, around 2003, in the meantime, I'm getting emails from parents and I'm keeping in touch with them via email.
Yeah.
And one day I see in the paper these three moms in Connecticut. That's where Purdue Farm is at. They
Mm-hmm.
actually stood outside in the middle of winter outside Purdue Pharma with posters of their dead kids
Wow.
protesting Purdue Pharma. And I thought that is a great idea. So I tracked down one of the moms somehow,
Mm-hmm.
probably through the reporter. Another thing I did, anybody who wrote a story about OxyContin, I would email them. And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, and I would give them the facts about OxyContin and Purdue Pharma. Well,
Man.
I contacted one of the moms, and here we got a tip from a reporter that there was going to be this big sales seminar in Orlando, Florida.
Oh
It just
man.
so happens one of the moms I connected with, she lived near Orlando.
Yeah.
No, so we decided let's go protest Purdue Pharma.
Oh,
And
love it.
so a bunch of us got together and they said, well, we got to call ourselves something. What are we going to call ourselves? And
Hmm.
we came up with Relatives Against Purdue Pharma. RAPP.
Beautiful. Rat.
RAPP. Now,
Yep.
RAPP. So
Rap.
so we went down, we flew down, we had people from California fly in, Rhode Island, all over. There was about 25 of us. We were stood out in Orlando in the pouring rain, Florida
Yep.
rain, no less.
Oh yeah.
If you've ever been to Florida, you know what
Oh.
Florida rain's like.
Oh yeah. Buckets.
We stood out there, and we're just protesting, and there were some news reporters there, and we gave some interviews. Next thing we know, a hotel maintenance worker comes out, this young
Hmm.
girl, and we're thinking, well, what's she doing? And she's behind the fence, and she says, sorry, they're making me do this. We're making you do this? Do what?
Yeah.
So she opens this box, flicks a switch, and the sprinklers come on. So
You're
not only are we
joking.
getting rained on, they turn the sprinklers on, us parents holding pictures of our kids. Well, guess
What?
what? That stunt backfired because the reporters who were there reported that happened. So
Oh yeah.
it made a bigger story, which helped get our warning out about OxyContin because that's what it was all about.
Give me a break.
So,
That doesn't seem. I mean, if it wasn't coming from you, I'm like, would I really believe it? Because how
yeah.
sinister and stupid
Oh,
is
we
that,
couldn't
right?
we couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But we were laughing because we were already soaked. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a picture. There was a couple pictures taken of some younger members standing right under the sprinkler. Uh,
Yeah.
so it made the Orlando Sentinel, and
Give me a
made
break.
some it made some waves. So anyway,
That
that
was
was
their best idea. Like they're like, hey, I got
yeah.
an idea on how to get them out of here.
Let's
Like,
soak them. So that
oh
was
my gosh.
2003, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so I'm going to fast forward. We're learning. We're speaking out. We're speaking out about Purdue Pharma. So I started hearing rumors. I'm making connections all over the country. And like
Yeah.
I said, any reporter who wrote a story about OxyContin, I would email them and they would
Yeah.
actually respond back then. The internet's still young. There was no Twitter, no Facebook. Everything was done by email
Yep.
or message boards or through my website. I had a guest book on my website, and I made a memorial page, and I'm getting literally hundreds of victims.
Man.
So it's building a resource to get the word out about OxyContin. So I started hearing rumors that there's an actual going to be a court case.
Mm-hmm.
So sure enough, so in 2007, and the show Dope Sick on Hulu. I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to watch Dope Sick on Hulu.
Ed, that was hard to watch. Oh my gosh, it made me so angry. Like, oh my gosh, like,
Right.
I'm with
Well,
you.
well, even the book. My
Yeah.
short version of this story is in chapter 3 of the book Dope Sick.
Beautiful.
Um, an actor portrays me in episode 8. My
Yeah.
son's actual picture is
Yeah.
in the show Dope Sick, and then
Mm-hmm.
they have an actor. So anyway, so
Mm.
Purdue Pharma, there was a 120-page memo written by Rick Mountcastle charging. He wanted to charge the three executives that I mentioned at the 2001 hearing,
Yep.
Goldenheim, Friedman, and Udell. He wanted
Yes.
to charge them with felony crimes, literally send them to jail. And
Yeah.
the hope was they would flip on the actual Sacklers.
Mm-hmm.
Sacklers are the owners of Purdue Pharma. I didn't know this back then. You think of the
Yeah.
owners, but you really think of the company and the president. Well, here the Sacklers were hands-on owners.
Wow.
So,
Hmm.
so anyway, that was the hope. Rick Mountcastle wrote a 120-page memo, had them dead to rights, 120 pages of evidence,
Jeez.
presented to a grand jury. Here, so what Purdue did, they knew they were in deep. Now
Yeah.
they spent millions and millions of dollars on PR and lobbying.
Yep.
Who did they hire? They hired Rudy Giuliani.
Jeez.
Rudy
Man.
Giuliani and Mary Jo White. Mary Jo White, she used to run the SEC. Very
Mm-hmm.
powerful. They lobbied the DOJ not to press criminal charges.
Give me a break.
So this 120-page memo, which we did not know about back then,
Mm-hmm.
was sat on. The judge never got to see it.
Give me a
So
break.
in May of 2007, 19 people were allowed to give statements at the sentencing hearing. At least 10 of them people were RAPP members. We
Wow.
we begged the judge to give them jail time. Okay? We didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So the judge, he was apologetic. He said, he literally, I forget the exact words, but he apologized to us parents, and he said he wished he could give them jail time, but he has to go by the guidelines. Now remember, there was a 120-page memo asking for felony crimes. Well, the DOJ sat on it. This judge never got to see that memo. Never
Ridiculous.
got to see that memo. We didn't know about it because we would have been more irate.
Oh yeah.
So at the time, he gave Purdue Pharma a record $600 million fine. He gave the three executives $34.5 million in fines. It was, like I said, at the time, it was a record. And the
Yeah.
prosecutors who wanted jail time and were denied, they said, well, this is still going to send a strong message.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
unfortunately, they couldn't have been more wrong. Because
Absolutely.
just that year, Purdue made $2 billion in OxyContin.
Oh my gosh. It's a
That year
sucker punch
alone.
every time.
So they did they got probation. The three executives had to get out of the pharma business, but Purdue didn't miss a beat. A couple months later, what did they do? They hired 100 more sales reps,
Yep.
and it was a full court press. And other companies were watching, and they saw what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and they realized Purdue got fined, but they're still making billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So after 2007, things just got worse. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, Dope Sick's all about the good guys, Rick Moncastle, Randy Romsire, and John Brownlee. They tried to do the right thing. They did their job. They
Yeah.
took on this, Goliath,
Yeah.
and they brought them down. They had them dead to rights.
Yep.
But the scales of justice, a thumb was put on thanks to Purdue's lobbying, and it just wasn't right. And we know how many people have died since 2007, and the
Yep.
opioid epidemic could have been stopped in 2007.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
I encourage everyone to watch Dope Sick on Hulu. Sign up. You get 30 days free, 8 episodes. It's well worth it.
100%.
Couple more shows. So there's another movie out. So one of the things that happened was the Sacklers were trying and they did for years. It's called reputation washing.
Yeah.
They gave millions and millions of dollars to art museums. Well, Nan Golden, who was a famous photographer,
Hmm.
she she had a wrist injury. And this wasn't even in the US, this was in Germany. She was living in Germany at the time.
Yeah.
But OxyContin went worldwide. She was prescribed OxyContin. Next thing you know, she was addicted. She spent a couple years. She actually wound up on overdosing because when she couldn't get her oxy, she bought a pill or something, and here it was mixed with fentanyl. She wound up overdosing. Went to rehab, got clean, got out the rehab, and she was in the airport, and she picked up the New Yorker magazine,
Hmm.
and she read a big magazine article about the Sacklers
Well, yeah.
by Patrick Radden Keefe. And I mentioned him because he wrote a book called Empire of Pain, all about the Sacklers.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
she read this New Yorker article, and being involved in the art world, she decided to do something. She decided she was going to attack them and call on them to fund rehabs through the art world. So she formed a group called PAIN, PAIN, Prescription Addiction Intervention Now, I believe it was. And they started doing protests,
Mm.
and not just normal protests like I could do. They
Yeah.
did it artistically,
Mm.
and it was filmed, and they were documenting it. And now on HBO in late March,
Uh-huh.
called All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. And
Wow.
it's about Nan and her efforts to get the Sackler names taken down by museums. And it took a couple years. And they did protests in New York, in France, in England.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And
Oh my
guess
God.
what? Their name has been taken down by many museums. And All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, that's going to be, I've seen it. I went to the Philadelphia premiere,
Wow.
but the country's going to see it on HBO. And it's a very artistic move. It's a documentary that plays like a movie. They
Hmm.
are up for the Academy Award. And
Brilliant.
I pray that they win an Oscar just so Nan and Laura Poitras can
Yeah.
give a speech.
100%.
Right. Not only
Jeez.
that, so this summer, Painkiller, the original book. So
Hmm.
Eddie died in 2001. Okay, the first congressional hearing about oxy abuse held in 2001. The
Yeah.
first book detailing Purdue Pharma crimes came out in 2003,
Man.
and it was called Painkiller. And I thought when that came out and I read it that things would change. But again, Purdue put
Oh my
literally
gosh.
hundreds of millions of dollars into lawyers and PR,
Mm.
and nothing came about. Well, this summer, Netflix is going to run Painkiller. And it's a
Brilliant.
combination of Painkiller by Barry Meyer and a combination of Empire of Pain by
Hmm.
Patrick Radden Keefe. It's a combo, and that's going to be another blow. And the more people who know the truth, because
Yeah.
like I learned this the hard way,
Yeah.
and I would try to tell people about this, and I'd be overwhelmed. And you can see right behind me, one, two,
Yep.
three, four, five, six, seven books, and
Yep.
I have another five on audio, and it's all about their crimes.
Good
And
grief, Ed.
so right now, so people might. So what happened to me was, we went to FDA hearings, a member of
Mm-hmm.
RAPP, Barbara Van Royen. She actually did a formal FDA protest, which is this big, laborious thing
Yeah.
because we wanted OxyContin reclassified for severe pain only.
Yeah.
Originally in '96,
Yep.
when they got it approved, which is a whole nother story, you gotta watch
Yep.
Dope Sick to see how in bed the FDA was with Purdue Pharma.
Makes me sick, Ed. Makes me so
Yep,
sick.
yep. Dr. Curtis Wright should be in prison.
Give
Basically,
me a break.
he was in charge of approving OxyContin with the magic wording. The magic wording was long term or extended release opioids are believed to be less abusable than immediate release. You're talking scientific literature. It's
Yeah.
believed. Who
Believed.
believes it? The tooth fairy? So
Yeah.
they
Give me a
were
break.
allowed to put that in. Well, it comes out, and you'll see this in Dope Sick. Dr. Curtis Wright met with Purdue Pharma in a hotel room for 3 days. 3 days. Purdue helped write up their own wording, and you know, like a
Give me a
year
break.
after Oxy was approved and selling, Dr. Curtis Wright left the FDA. Within a couple months, Purdue
Yep.
Pharma hired him at triple his FDA salary.
Give me a break.
Almost 400 grand a year they gave him. And that
Give
was a
me a break.
of money back then.
Yeah, it still is.
It's
That's
still good
insane.
money, but
Yeah.
it's like getting paid $1 million in today's money.
Absolutely
It
insane.
right. And so this is all documented now. So what happened to me was around 2011, 2012. I couldn't tell. I was just burnt out. We were going.
Yeah.
We went to a trial of a Purdue rep who refused to go visit pill mills, so they fired her, saying that she wasn't doing her job.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
she refused to go to pill mills, so she actually sued Purdue for wrongful termination. Members of RAPP went down to Tampa, Florida, sat at her week-long trial. She had one lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue Pharma showed up with 10 lawyers.
Yeah.
Okay? Because they knew one of the reasons why Purdue got away with this, they would hire these lawyers, they would either crush it or settle lawsuits, but the records were always sealed, the evidence always sealed.
Oh
Even
my
in
gosh.
2007, them records were sealed. That
Give me a break.
120-page memo, that is
Mm-hmm.
still sealed. But what leaked out about that 120-page memo, there was a 6-page summary
Mm.
got leaked out. That is available online at geraldposner.com.
Brilliant.
So anyway, going back to Karen White. Karen White, the Purdue rep, Purdue
Mm-hmm.
crushed her with the 10 lawyers. And one of the ways they crushed her, the GAO, the General Accountant Office, they
Mm-hmm.
spent $2 million writing this big report on OxyContin abuse and the deaths. Well, her lawyer was counting on that $2 million report.
Yeah.
Purdue got that thrown out as evidence.
Oh
Another
gosh.
thing, they got the judge to tell Karen's lawyer he wasn't allowed to mention any deaths. It was insane. So,
What?
right. So, one of Karen's thing, because of all these deaths, she wouldn't go to these pill mill doctors.
Yeah, it's the cause and the effect. That's why
Okay.
she's
So,
not doing
right.
it.
So that's how they beat Karen. Well, it
Holy
came
hell.
out eventually. Karen refused to go to 13 medical professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 13, 12 of them either lost their medical license or eventually went to jail.
Give me a break.
Yes, yes. So I mean, this is level of corruption, the level of lying. So anyway, around
I don't get it. I just don't understand how they can justify it for that long. Like, who are the dumb people? It blows
well,
my
like I
mind. You
said,
guys, oh,
everything now you can read about and read this, and you say, how could
yeah,
they? But this transpired over years, and it was one battle over another. My cat wants to get in.
yeah, that's fine. Bring
Yes,
him
and
on,
now
bring
my
him on.
wife got him.
But it
But
blows my mind that you had to kind of sit through there and watch the blind sides and the sucker punches and the choke outs.
exactly, I learned this blow by blow. So
Man,
I just rewatched Dope Sick again, and it's my fourth time watching it. And my
yeah,
wife said to me, "How can you watch this? Like me watching that is like watching my life." Because when
that's
they
serious, man.
mention an article or a big announcement came out, I can think back, and it's battles, it's
Brother.
baby steps, but I wanted the truth to get out, and I'm thrilled that the truth is getting out. But anyway, so I keep on going
But
back. 2012, I was literally burnt out. So
yeah.
I got away, like I was paying attention, but here the guy who started my website, all of a sudden I couldn't contact him. I don't know. He could have died for all I know.
Mhm.
So the website faded away, unfortunately. I I took that as a sign. I needed a break. I backed away.
Mhm.
Then in 2018, Maura Healey, the Attorney General for Massachusetts, filed a lawsuit. But not only was she going after Purdue, she was going after the Sackler family.
Yeah.
But what was amazing was this lawsuit, with their evidence, was available online.
Mm.
I sat
Mhm.
down. It took me a couple hours to read it, and my jaw dropped and my heart fluttered. And I
Yeah.
said, I got to get back involved.
Yeah.
So I actually called up some old RAPP members, and I told them, I said, they got them. They got
Yeah.
them. Dead to rights, the evidence. Go read this. And next thing you know, there was over 2,600 lawsuits against Purdue and the Sacklers.
Mhm.
So what did Purdue Pharma? Purdue Pharma files for bankruptcy. I read that. I was
Yep.
happy. I
Yeah.
start reading. I start reading it, and first thing I read, well, one of the conditions is that the Sacklers get immunity from any future liability, not criminal immunity, but
Mm.
financial immunity. And I knew right then that this was, I call it a bankruptcy scam.
Yeah.
I knew the scam was just to protect the Sacklers, like all them years of all the lawsuits, the records being sealed. This was another way. So I wound up
Bloody
getting
hell.
involved in the Purdue bankruptcy scam. And
Jeez.
yeah, so there was a book. It is so bad that Ryan Hampton, who's in the recovery community, he
Mhm.
wrote a book called Unsettled. And it's all about this bankruptcy scam, which is
Yeah.
currently under appeal. Okay. So
Give me a break.
literally, I'm talking 22 years. This happened for me, blow by blow,
Yeah.
year by year, month by month, learning revelations. And I'm willing to bet when Painkiller comes out, there's still
Mm.
more stuff I'm going to learn.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Um,
how could there could be? Their skeletons are way
but
too plentiful and
the
there's too deep in
country.
the closets. Mhm.
So after Dope Sick and Dope Sick, I knew it was going to be good, but it was better than I ever dreamed. Beth
Yeah.
Macy and Danny Strong, who did the Hulu show, they
Yeah.
couldn't have done any better. So I actually RAPP, Relatives Against Purdue Pharma, in December 2021. We held a protest in Washington, D.C., outside the DOJ calling for them to investigate the Sacklers
Yeah.
with the evidence in all
Mm-hmm.
these books, all the evidence in the TV shows. We call for them. Well, who I couldn't believe it myself. Danny Strong came, Beth Macy came, Rick Montcastle, the prosecutor from 2007, came and gave a
Yeah.
little speech calling on the DOJ to prosecute the Sacklers, the evidence in there. Maura Healey, the Attorney General of Massachusetts,
Yeah.
who brought the first lawsuit against the Sacklers, said on NPR the evidence she has seen the DOJ needs to prosecute.
Mm-hmm.
She said, the guy asked her, well, how come the states don't prosecute? She said, the states are not equipped. The DOJ, this is national. They should
Mm-hmm.
do their job.
Yeah.
And it's still a possibility. So right now, the bankruptcy scam's under appeal. But even
Mm-hmm.
if it gets approved, the Sacklers are not immune from criminal prosecution. And
Good.
that's what needs to happen.
Yes.
And like I said, with all the beauty and the bloodshed coming out, with painkiller coming out, more and more people are going to know what they did. And if there's any justice, and it's not guaranteed, the DOJ will prosecute. And anyway, so we held that rally outside the DOJ. One
Mm-hmm.
of the things we sent four letters to the DOJ asking for a Zoom meeting. Well, anyway, while I was literally standing in front of the DOJ behind whoever was speaking, I got a text message from our pro bono lawyer in the bankruptcy case saying
Mm-hmm.
the DOJ has agreed to meet with us.
Yes.
Took a couple months. We met with the DOJ. I knew they weren't going to say nothing,
Yeah.
but they heard us out. And,
Jeez.
you know, just the fact that they met with us means that they are not ruling out prosecution. Now, behind the scenes, Purdue's still spending millions of dollars
Oh yeah.
lobbying. You
Mm-hmm.
know, at one point, Richard Sackler bragged, and this is documented. He bragged that within a day, he could have any senator or congressman on the phone with him.
That's terrifying.
That's the kind of political access that they paid for over the years.
Terrifying.
And, you know, our call for justice is ongoing. Um,
My gosh. If
so,
it doesn't happen, Ed, if the justice doesn't happen, amen to like civility. I mean, I don't understand it. Like it's as you say now, you learned it blow by blow, sucker punch by sucker punch. We're looking at now all the work that all of you put into this, and we're like, why are they still free? Like, and
right,
you're like, it
exactly.
man,
It's
I'm just
unbelievable.
blown away.
Yeah. Here's our RAPP pin, Relatives Against Purdue Pharma. So anybody who wants more info, just go on Facebook and look up RAPP, Relatives Against Purdue Pharma. I'm also on Twitter, and I tweet a lot. I tweet a lot of stuff,
You
and
do.
it's Ed Bisch, Bisch, and my Twitter is at EJB1893. At
Okay,
EJB1893.
we're gonna
People
put
can
it in the show
follow
notes.
up on Facebook at the top of my personal page. Anybody can
Mm-hmm.
look at my personal page or the RAP page. There's a link to send a letter to the DOJ. If what you heard or
On it.
once you watch Dope Sick or read any of these books, please send the DOJ email.
On it.
And,
We'll do it.
I just pray that justice, let's have a trial.
Yes, I think it's
I
a
have
must.
the
It has
evidence.
to
Like I
happen.
said, for years and years, Purdue got everything buried. Every
Hmm.
time, every lawsuit, they got the record sealed. In some cases, the evidence was actually destroyed. That
Give
was
me a
part of the
break.
settlement, that the evidence had to be. How damning is that evidence?
No
The
kidding.
evidence
It
is the
has to
evidence
be.
is out there. So,
And I don't understand. I know we're kind of running out of time, but I have a couple questions for you. First and foremost, brother, how in the world did you carry this much weight for this long? I can just imagine. I mean, I'm a therapist, for crying out loud. I hear the heaviest of the heavy, but here you are, a guy who starts a website and you start getting inundated by people's emotions and their feelings. How in the world did you have the capacity inside of you to even be there for them, to be able to be that person that people can say, hey, there's a guy here that understands us and knows us? Like, your family's amazing to me because you didn't take a knee. You guys jumped in. Like, the troops aren't coming. You're the troops. And I'm like, that to me is, it's mind blowing. How did you guys do that?
well, I'll tell you, anybody who lost someone, I mean, it's horrible. But
Yeah.
me, the way I looked at it, and have gotten many emails over the years. You saved my life. Thank you.
Wow.
And Eddie's dead, obviously, and I do all this in his memory. The website was in
Yeah.
memory of Eddie Bisch, and helping in my grief journey, me
Mm.
helping others, trying to get the truth out.
Yeah.
Besides rage,
Yeah.
besides this just ain't right. This just ain't right.
How did you channel the rage? How did you do that? Because I'm sitting here, guy who started a team to help people overcome addiction by working out, running, and not being anonymous anymore in Springville, Utah. But I am sitting here just livid. I can't imagine all the emotional checks and balances you had to have to stay this sane this long with Goliath. How did you do it?
Uh, it's you sadly realize what you're up against.
Mm.
Literally hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying.
Yeah.
You find out the world ain't what it is. Unfortunately, with the current state of events in this
Yeah.
country, a lot of people are realizing things are not the way they should be. I started realizing that watching Purdue get away with all their crimes for years and years. I mean, it took you, Oxy was approved in '96. Since '96, over 1 million people have died from overdoses. It's well documented that they
Yep.
ignited the opioid epidemic. And what was worse, in after 2007, when they only had to pay a small portion of the blood money, I call it blood money, that they
Yeah.
made, other companies took that as a green light.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are unscrupulous people out there, and they cloud it. One of the
Hmm.
Richard Sacklers. You talk about stigma, okay? Stigma
Yeah.
is always talked about. I want everyone to know in the recovery community that Richard Sackler is personally responsible, putting millions of dollars. He said, hammer the abusers. They are the criminals.
Mm.
Anyone who had a problem with OxyContin, it is their fault.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
They actually, talking about Appalachia, they actually said, well, this goes back to the Civil War.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
like, it's the spin. And like I said, he didn't just say hammer the abusers, he put millions of dollars behind that. And,
Jeez.
just the fact that people are learning the truth,
Yeah.
that their name is a disgrace. If I
Yeah.
had the last name Sackler and I wasn't involved,
I'd
I'd
be
think
pissed.
about changing my name. I
Yeah.
would, but so that's something that's far from justice, and there's still a chance. I tell
Yeah.
people there's still a chance. This is
I
the
love it.
year. with all
Mm-hmm.
these TV shows coming out, if nothing happens this year or next year, probably nothing will happen. But like I said, the more people who know, I want everybody to know the truth, and
Yeah.
that's something in itself.
You deserve it more than anyone because just that comment you made about watching Dope Sick and reading these books and chronologically being able to understand where you were when you read this and who that person is. That was the life that you were supposed to have with your son and the
Exactly.
family. You weren't supposed to be doing this. And so I have just mad respect for you guys. And I just do because I'm like, it'd be easy to throw in the towel. I've lost athletes on my team that have been dear friends, and I'm like, I've almost thrown in the towel. I'm just blown away by just your strength and your willingness to like not take a knee and to say, no, there is some good out there, and we're gonna have the conversation come hell or high water, we're gonna have a conversation and we'll see where it goes. Like I'm just blown away by your willingness to keep subjecting yourself to the experience. I guess that's it's. Thank you.
You're welcome, and and I'm sure in your journey too, neither of us really want to be doing what we're doing, but
Yeah,
you wind up meeting a lot of good people you would never have met before.
true.
And that's the silver lining. I'll tell you, from the beginning, my motto is it could always be worse. And
Yeah,
people say, well, your son died. Yeah, well, I met a couple parents whose kids were vegetables for years and then they
hmm,
died.
yeah,
And, you know, I sadly, I met parents who literally spent their life savings trying to get their kids clean. And
yeah,
their kids wind up in the same spot my son is,
yeah,
6 feet under. And the torture that they go through and the
mm,
ups and downs. So when I say it could always be worse, it could be always be worse. I had a
yeah,
daughter. My daughter's doing great. I met so many parents who lost their only child. So
yeah,
when I say it
yeah,
could always be worse, no matter what your situation, everybody listening, no matter what your situation, it could always be worse. So if you try to think of that, it makes your life a little more bearable.
yeah. Listeners, I don't think you guys realize either. I mean, I've had so many clients that have come from back east, your neck of the woods. I don't think us Western people out here on the western side of the coast, they know how much it ravaged like the western state or the eastern states. I have family. I have a dear friend of mine who lost all three of her sons to this disease,
Oh my
and
God.
and I'm like, it just is mind boggling, Ed. And there's still a lot of work to do. And join us.
Uh,
I would join you next to the fight because
there,
we're
there
with
is.
you.
So, I mean, I can't, I have to mention this, and you know full well.
Hmm.
So, one of the things I am involved with Lost Voices of Fentanyl, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a group, and a lot of them lost their kids.
Mm,
And one thing they want to make perfectly clear is their kids were poisoned.
yeah,
And it's through like Snapchat, and for whatever reason, a kid buys his Xanax. I know one guy, his son was going on a date, little nervous, bought a Xanax on Snapchat. It wasn't a Xanax. It was a fake Xanax. It was a fentanyl pill. He took it and hit the floor and was dead.
oh my
That's a
gosh.
poisoning. So a lot of the problem with fentanyl is poisoning, and just like the politics trying to get anything done to stop the deaths, it's
Yeah,
insane. But I've been through this with OxyContin,
yeah,
and it's a long journey. And so I support them. They have a rally in September in Washington D.C. I'll be there. They let me speak.
well, I'm gonna come out there then, Ed.
Great,
Yeah.
September
Mm-hmm.
23rd.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be there, and my role in it is just to remind everybody that this fentanyl epidemic would not nearly be as bad
Yep.
If not for what Purdue Pharma ignited way back, way
Yep.
back. And now here we are, and it's a battle, and there's so many good parents out there, and they're trying to save others at this point,
Yeah.
literally trying to save others.
Yeah, and you guys have written the playbook. I mean, I hope there's conversations happening because yeah, this stuff should be able to be wrapped up. I mean, you guys have the blueprint, the playbook on how to observe it, how to get rid of it, what to do to make it stop. But Ed, we do this thing every September as well for Recovery Month. We do what's called the proxy run, where we have our athletes. They will write the bib number that they get a name of someone who's lost their battle to addiction, and we're definitely going to have your son's name written on a bib. And I would be more than I think privileged to maybe carry him through the next race I do. We do this
Awesome,
to
awesome.
celebrate that the
Send
proxy runner.
send me
It's a
a
beautiful
picture,
thing.
and I'll put that up on my RAPP page on Facebook.
In fact, it's going to be. It's funny, Ed. It's hard to wrap your head around. It'll be this next Tuesday. Next Friday, next Sunday. It's in Las Vegas. Go figure. The Las Vegas 10K we're going to be doing. They shut the whole strip down, and so here we are, these sober people running in the most crazy place in the world. But I'll carry your son with me, and yeah, brother. Like we'll put all your socials down in here, listeners. Reach out to him, support him. Let's get those letters written to the DLC. I mean, we do. Our voices matter. Like we said, the troops aren't coming. We are the troops, and I think that Ed has definitely emulated our concept that we talk about turning your mess into a message. It's what you've done. Um, Ed, I'm blown away by you. I mean, and thank your family for like letting you hang out here. I don't know what time it is where you're at, but it's late. So I mean, they're probably like, oh yeah, we're used to it. But thank your family for me for letting you come and hang out with us for a little bit.
No problem. It was a pleasure, and thank you for helping to get the word out, and thank you for what you're doing. And I did listen to some of your podcasts and check out your website.
Thank you.
And I would say, even no matter what, exercise, the running, biking, no matter what you're dealing with, whether it's addiction or just sadness from losing a loved one,
Hmm.
get out there, do some exercise, and mentally it will help you so much.
I've seen it. You're right. You're right. In fact, it was funny. After we watched Dope Sick, I'm like, Marissa, what I'm going to do is go take our proxy run to Connecticut. We're going to go run around this stupid building of them. We're going to show. I was doing the same thing, man. I'm with you, and I want to bring the team to meet and to go out there and to be voices that heard. I mean, in fact, this comes out on Monday, which I believe is President's Day. So I don't think it's a coincidence that we get to spread this message.
Well, so Monday, my son died on President's Day, 2001. It's actually the 19th, which is Sunday. But yes,
Yeah.
thank you. That'll be great, and I will be sharing it widely.
Thank
And
you. Well,
we just keep on plugging along. A reporter asked me, "What's your advice to people doing advocacy?" I
mhm.
said, "Pack a lunch,
Yeah.
because nothing happens fast."
So true, and we all have to realize that. Thank you, Ed. Listeners. You've been well fed today. Please jump on the socials. There's some work for us to do. We'll put all those social networks and connections on the website, addictoathlete.org, as well as the show notes for this podcast. And until next time, athletes, please continue to do your best to turn your mess into your message.